So in this video we're going to be removing this fairing. It's the upper fairing or the nose section or the headlamp cowl. You know, you may need to replace your headlamp, or you want to remove and replace the indicators or get to the wiring behind it. Whatever reason, we're going to take this off. It's a fairly straightforward procedure. It's mirrors off, screen out, plastic panel underneath here with 6 panel clips in. There are 3 bolts on each, 3 screws on each side that hold this upper fairing or the headlamp cowl to the side fairings, and then inside here there are a couple of panel clips and a couple of screws. Okay, now if you've never done it before, I would make a suggestion that you remove the side fairings and take those off. That's not to make it easier to get this off. It makes it easier for when you come to put it back on, because you've got a few things you've got to line up, and having these panels in the way can cause a bit of a problem. So if you remove those, you've only got to get the front end lined up and the air intakes lined up. Okay, so that's my suggestion, that you take these off. Either way, it's up to you. So that's what we're going to be doing. Let's get on with that. So the first thing we need to do is remove the mirrors and remove the screen. To do this, basically, it's 2 screws in each mirror, and then there are 6 screws around the screen. Okay, so she'll just do that now. Okay, so remove the seals, being careful that you don't rip them. These screws have got small nylon washers underneath them, so make sure if you have them on yours that you don't lose those. Make sure they're not stuck to the fairing, and keep them with the screws. So you can see the 2 locating lugs. Okay, so what will happen is that the seal fits over those lugs, and then the mirror screws into them. Okay, when you come to remove the screen, you have to pull the fairing over those lugs, and then the screen should, same thing on that side, pull the fairing over those lugs, and then the screen should just slide up and out of the way. Okay, so once we've removed the screen and the mirrors, the next thing we need to do is we need to remove the 3 screws on each side that locate the top fairing to the bottom fairing. Okay, so those 6 screws in total. Again, this is an aftermarket set. They come with nylon washers behind them, so make sure you don't lose those. So let's take them off. So once we've removed the screws from each side of the fairing, we have to take off this panel underneath the headlight. Yeah, so it just sits underneath. Now there are 6 small panel clips that hold it in place. You can see there's 1 there and 1 there. There are 2 on the opposite side, and then there are 2 just underneath the headlamp. See, 1 here and 1 here. Okay, so that's 6 in total. So this is the panel that goes under the headlamp, and this is the panel that runs down on the inside of the right hand fairing. And you can see the joined together by these little panel clips. Okay, so once you understand how these actually work, they're very easy to do. So you can see there's a small pin in the center. All you need to do is just apply pressure to that, and you should hear it click as it drops in. So it's now just gone in a few millimeters. Okay, and once you've done that, you can just get fingernails or a very small blade or something, get behind it, and it just pulls out. Okay, I'll show you again on this one. So all you do is just get the tool, hear it click, and then you can just use, you see I'm just using my fingernails and just pull it straight out. Now to actually put it back together, obviously you'll fit it in and you'll line it all up. And then with the pins, you just need to make sure, okay, that the pin is just sticking out slightly. So when the pin's sticking out like that, you just push the clip, making sure that both panels are fitting tightly together. And then all you need to do is just push that pin until you hear it click, and that's now locked in place. So I'll show you again with this one. So you can see that the pin's still in. So all I do is just push the pin out like that. Okay, line these holes up. So make sure the pin is just pushed out. Put the clip, making sure it goes through both of the panels and that the panels are tight together. And then all you do is just push the pin and you hear it click, and that's now locked in place. So that's how you remove and replace and refit these panel clips. So we've removed the 6 clips, remove the panel. So the next thing we have to do is remove this panel clip, and basically that clips the air intake on this side to this frame bracket support here. There's one of these on each side, and they work exactly the same as the panel clips that we took from the panel underneath the headlamp. So you just push the little the center pin down a couple of millimeters, you'll hear it click, and then you can pull that out as we did before. And then we have to remove this screw, and that screw actually screws into a mounting point that's actually on the headlight. Okay, so there's a panel clip on each side, and then there's that screw on each side. So remove the clip, remove the screw. Once we remove these, it's almost ready to slide out. We look here now. Just zoom in. So you can see this air intake, yeah. Underneath the air intake, there is a cable connected. The main wiring loom runs under here, comes here, and there's a main connection behind the fairing here. Okay, and that's basically attaching this part of the fairing and the bike to the rest of the bike. So we need to get this disconnected. Okay, so if you just saw that snap, I've just pulled it out now. We've unhooked it from the mirror mountings. I'm going to carefully pull it forward. And once we get to this phase here, now, there we go. So here you can see that the fairing is disconnected, but we've got this main wiring loom that runs from, see here, it runs from the back of the bike, and it connects basically all of the electrics in this nose section to the rest of the bike. So we just need to disconnect that plug. There we go, that's disconnected, and that is the nose section removed. Okay, so we're now ready to refit the nose back onto the bike. Okay, so the first thing we need to remember when we come to do this is we need to connect the plug back onto the main harness. This is the power for the instrument panel, the headlights and the indicators. Okay, also be aware that when you come to actually offer this fairing up to the bike, sometimes this cable can get in the way, so you have to be aware of that all the time as you're trying to put the fairing back on. The second thing we've got to be aware of is there are three things that we need to get lined up for it all to go on correctly. So the first one is if you have a look here, we've got these two lugs on the outside. So there's one there and obviously one on the opposite side over here. And they locate into these two rubber grommets here. Okay. So that's the main sort of bit that supports the middle. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the outside of the fairing here has to go on the outside of this fairing here. That's the same for both sides. Okay. So as I said in the beginning, at the start of the video, you could possibly remove these. If you've never done this sort of job or you're not used to it, I would suggest that you do take them off, because then that's one less thing to worry about when you're putting it back on. Okay. But if they're in situ, if you've still left them on, then you've got to be aware that the outside here has to go on the outside of those. And also, I'll just show you, if I can get it in close up, there's a little tag here. If you can see that little tiny tag just there, yeah, that has to be lined up, and it goes inside the fairing right at the very top here. Okay, so there's one of those on each side. And then obviously the last and the third thing we have to remember to line up is the air intakes have to line up correctly with the holes in the chassis. Now I'll just turn the light on this one to show you. But these are actually sided. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but there is an R there. Yeah, so there's a left and a right hand one. And what you need to remember is left and right refers to if you were sat on the bike, not looking at it. So you have to be sat on the bike, so that would be the right, this would be the left. Okay, so make sure they're on the correct way round. So that's the three things we need to think of. Two locators going into the grommets. Fairings have to fit around the outside with a little clip just going on the inside at the end of the fairing. And then get these air intakes lined up. Okay, so we come in. The first thing we need to do is get the air intakes around the outside of the forks. Okay, so at this point here now, I'm just going to hold it with my legs, and I'm going to make sure I plug in the plug to the harness. Okay. Okay, so that's plugged in. So now making sure that we've got the fairings going around the outside, start to move everything backwards, start to push it into place. So now at this point here, I'm looking to make sure that these locators are lined up and going in towards the grommets. And I'm keeping the pressure on with my thighs on the front of it here. So now I'm going to line up, make sure that the intakes for the air intakes are lined up. Okay, the locators are lined up with the grommets, we've got the fairings. This one's not on the outside, so let's back out. That's it, and refit that. I can see it. Okay, yeah. So fairings are on the outside. The little clips on the fairings are on the inside, like I said. Okay, that's good. They're lined up with the grommet, so just push it forward. Push it in, the cable isn't trapped, and that's on. So what we need to do now is put the 2 screws in here. These are the ones that are either side of the headlight, if you remember. So the 2 screws that go in there, and that basically stop the whole thing from going forward. And once we've got one of the screws in, we know it's not going to drop off accidentally while we're looking at doing anything else. So that's one in, so that's it. So it's secure now, it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, and that's tight. The fairings over the mounting points for the mirrors. Make sure the air intakes are correctly positioned, so they're okay. And the fairing is lined up and clipped in, and it's lined up and clipped in on that side. So that's everything fitted. The only other thing now we have to remember that's out of sight is this main loom, if you remember, that runs in, that has that little clip. The clip needs to come up into the air intake into a small hole there. So you can actually do this if you there, and you just hear it click in there, and that's that cable located. Okay, so the next thing we have to do on each of the air intakes, you can see there's a hole there that puts in one of these sort of body clips. So you just need to make sure that the center pin is sticking out like that, and then we just put the clip into the hole, yeah, and then you just push the pin down till you hear it click, and that's locked in place. And then we do the same thing on the other side. So once the 2 clips are in, we now refit the fairing bolts. Make sure if they've got plastic or nylon washers that they're on. They basically protect the bodywork from the screws. And again, as I always say, when you're fitting bodywork or you're fitting new parts or whatever, always make sure that all of the bolts are actually started in the holes, whether they're mounting bolts or panel screws like this. Always make sure that they're all in before you tighten any of them up. Okay, because if you tighten it up with just one in, it could be that the other 2 holes are misaligned and you can't get the bolts in. So you'd have to then loosen the first one, get it lined up, and then get the others in. So always put them in loose to start with, and then once they're all in and you're happy that they're all in, then you can tighten them up. Okay, good. These are aluminium. I really should replace them with steel. So once we've got the fairing bolts in, we're going to fit this panel underneath. Okay, there are 2 in the centre and then 2 on each side that clip into the other little side panels that are already in there. So we'll get this clipping in place. Okay, so that's the 6 panel clips in. And then finally, all we need to do now is refit the screen and refit the mirrors. Just make sure there's room for the screen to go in. So the screen comes down at the front. So this fits over the top of this, and these go underneath the fairing. Okay, so this is over the top of these, and these 2 each side go underneath the fairing. Okay, so once you've got the screen in place, put the fairing back where it's supposed to go, and then you've got 6 screws. Now the original screws, some of the original screws will actually have shoulders on them for the larger holes. Make sure that the right bolts go in the right ones. The ones with the shoulders should go in these top holes. Okay. Okay, so once they're all in, make sure that your screen is in the correct position. And I'm just pinching these up finger tight. Mainly these top 2 are the ones for positioning. And last, but by no means least, the mirrors. Make sure that you match the rubber seals up to the correct mirror. Put the bolts in loose to start with. And then I can just pinch those up now. Again, it's not a load bearing structural part, so we only need to pinch them up. They don't need to be mega tight. The mirrors, I'll just loosely pinch these up, tighten them up once the bike is down and we're sat on it to make sure we're going to get the optimal vision from the mirrors. Okay, so that will do for that now. And basically, that's the front end removed and refitted. Okay, that's all for now. If you liked the video, then leave a like. If you didn't like the video, then leave a dislike. Either way, leave a comment, suggestion, or any questions you may have in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss any of my future content. Once again, thanks for watching.